Good evening, I'm Dennis Ward. Welcome to APTN National News. There is a lot of mixed reaction coming out after Thursday's memorandum of understanding was signed between the federal and Alberta governments. The MOU will try to fast-track a new oil pipeline from Alberta to the west coast for export. Chris Stewart has more.
It was all smiles Thursday when Alberta Premier Danielle Smith and Prime Minister Mark Carney signed an MOU to increase Canada's oil exports by building one more new pipeline. It would deliver bitumen from Alberta to the coast of British Columbia for overseas markets to diversify away from U.S. trade. The MOU says the pipelines would be Indigenous co-owned and move 1 million barrels of oil a day. There are currently no private ownership in line. Dale Swampy is the president of the National Coalition of Chiefs. He wants to see 51 to 100% Indigenous ownership.
I'm encouraged, and I hope there's more First Nations that are willing to, come up front and center and learn more about, the safety, integrity, and environmental protection plan features of a project like this, so they can make an informed decision and meet with the proponents, meet with the Alberta government, meet with the federal government, and try to understand and make an informed decision.
Swampy would like to see the revival of the Northern Gateway pipeline that was cancelled in 2016 after then Prime Minister Justin Trudeau banned oil tankers off the BC coast.
We can build a pipeline in 2 years to the coast once you get approval. So I think if you're going to look for no proponents willing to go in right now, first of all, because the tanker ban hasn't been removed. Second of all, the cost is pretty high. And third, there's no guarantee that the government will approve it unless they have the majority of First Nations on board.
And Marilyn Slett says it will stay that way. She is president of the Coastal First Nations in BC.
Today's MOU does nothing to improve the chances of a North Coast pipeline ever becoming reality. Coastal First Nations, along with the province of BC, will do everything in our power to protect our coast from a real threat of an oil spill. There is no technology that can clean up an oil spill, and we know this as Housing people, as we've experienced the Nathan E. Stewart in 2016, and we're still living with the after effects of that spill.
That spill leaked 110,000 liters of diesel fuel on sensitive waters. She doubled down on saying the pipeline is a no-go.
We will never allow oil tankers in our coastal waters because an oil spill could destroy our way of life. This MOU does not override the rights and title of Coastal First Nations on BC's North Coast, Central Coast, and Haida Gwaii. The honor of the Crown means the federal government must consult with us on a nation-to-nation basis, and Canada's domestic and international legal commitments mean they must seek our consent. We will never consent to allowing oil tankers in our coastal waters.
Chris Stewart, APTN National News, Edmonton.
Also announced late Thursday afternoon, Quebec Liberal MP Stephen Guilbeault said he was resigning from Prime Minister Mark Carney's cabinet. The decision comes after Carney and Smith signed Thursday's MOU for the proposed pipeline from Alberta to the west coast. Guilbeault said he was quitting cabinet in protest of that pipeline pact and the possibility of the coastal tanker ban in BC being overturned for oil exports. Guilbeault was a cabinet minister for 6 years, with much of that time spent working under the former Trudeau government. The longtime environmentalist and activist was first a heritage minister, but moved to environment in 2021. He was then the Minister of Canadian Identity and Culture under Mark Carney. During his time as Environment Minister, he championed Trudeau's climate policies and heavily defended the carbon tax. There are rumors that his resignation is showing some cracks within the Liberal caucus. However, the Liberal Party says it remains united. In a statement from Guilbeault's resignation letter, he added there was no consultation with the Indigenous nations of the west coast of BC or with the provincial government, who would be greatly affected by this agreement. A pipeline to the west coast would have major environmental impacts, particularly as it could cross the Great Bear Rainforest, contribute to a significant increase in climate pollution, and move Canada further away from its greenhouse gas reduction targets. Guilbeault also says the possibility of lifting the tanker ban on the west coast would significantly increase the risk of accidents in the region and would hinder the creation of a marine conservation area in the Great Bear Sea, a project that the Feds, BC, and Indigenous leadership have been working towards for several years. He also says parts of Canada's climate action plan will soon be dismantled. He will stay within the Liberal caucus as an MP. Well, as the Carney government rolls out its so-called nation-building projects, one proposal in British Columbia includes connecting the Yukon's territory's standalone power grid to that of its southern neighbor. While the Yukon Development Corporation is touting the proposed project's benefits, one First Nation says it's already off to a rocky start. Here's Sarah Connors with that story.
The Yukon is growing, and so is its need for electricity. But the territory's isolated power grid can make it challenging to meet demand. Enter the Yukon-BC Grid Connect project, a proposed $4 billion high-voltage line linking the territory to the North American power grid, improving its access to reliable, affordable, clean power. The project is part of the North Coast Transmission Line, which aims to expand the power grid in northwestern BC and is one of the Carney government's designated nation-building projects.
We're not in support of the proposed route going through Kaskakea, at least through the Ross River area.
But at least one First Nation in the Yukon isn't lending its support. One of the grid project's two proposed routes runs through the Ross River Dene Council's asserted territory. Its chief says the nation has concerns about its environmental impact, high cost, and how it would help power resource extraction projects.
We're always concerned about impacts to our land base.
He also takes issue with the Yukon Development Corporation recently claiming no First Nations opposed the project, a statement he says was made after his nation had already submitted its concerns.
But we'd like to see that statement corrected for the record.
To me, this is indeed a good plan.
This energy expert applauds the project overall, but warns there could be some impacts. He says road access construction can cause disturbance, and in some cases, transmission lines can become wildlife corridors, making it easier for predators to access prey.
In the relative scheme of things, I think that yes, transmission lines are relatively low impact. That's not to say it's zero, but that it is low.
This Yukon Development Corporation lead says as the project moves ahead, Ross River will have more opportunities to have its voice heard, though she stopped short of clarifying earlier comments about its support.
We have recently sent a letter out, and so we're hoping for a response and to set up more of an engagement plan with Ross River.
Despite starting off on the wrong foot, Loblaw says his nation could be open to the grid project, with conditions.
That would be the first step, is to correct the record and meaningfully engage with the nations.
The project is still in the pre-feasibility stage, and it will likely be years before a transmission route is chosen and shovels hit the ground. Sarah Connors, APTN National News, Whitehorse.
Thanks, Sarah. To other news now, and the family of a Northern Ontario man who has been missing for 3 years is once again appealing to the public for information. 65-year-old Alex Lawson was last seen in the vicinity of his Thunder Bay apartment on November 27th, 2022. Lawson's family, including his daughter Kim, gathered near the building where he was last seen. According to the family, Lawson's bank account, health card, and status card have been inactive since his disappearance. Thunder Bay police have been investigating and are joining the family in appealing for tips from the public.
If you know anything regarding our dad's disappearance, please do the right thing and come forward. The $15,000 cash reward is still available. All we want is to find our dad and bring him home. Thank you.
We've had tips from across the country that have come in, and we follow up with those tips through various means, through their various police services, follow up on getting video from those establishments across the country to verify that it is or is not him, and that's been ongoing. We're just asking if anybody has information, it's a dedicated open missing persons case, to come forward to the police service and our Crime Stoppers so we can follow those tips up.
Lawson is described as 5 feet 6 inches tall, medium build, and was last seen wearing a black baseball cap, a dark colored jacket, and gray pants. Numerous First Nations in northwestern Ontario have declared a state of emergency. Details on that and more after the break. Welcome back. Tributes are rolling in for a murdered and missing women and girls advocate from Manitoba who passed away this week. Brenda Osborne, who was the mother of Claudette Osborne-Tayo, who went missing from Winnipeg in 2008. Brenda, originally from Norway House Cree Nation, never stopped looking for her. She set up awareness walks in Manitoba and walked across Canada with the national group Walk for Justice. According to organizer Gladys Raddick, she was a strong and beautiful warrior woman who never gave up. Raddick of Northern British Columbia posted on her Facebook page. The Osborne family posted a $20,000 reward for information leading to Claudette's disappearance in 2011. It has never been claimed. We'll hope to have more on this in the coming days. Ottawa First Nations, a non-profit tribal council that supports 9 First Nations in northwestern Ontario, has declared a state of emergency due to the federal government's funding cuts they say is impacting the safety and well-being of Indigenous youth and families. And they add if decisions aren't reversed, it will only increase child apprehensions and family collapse. In an open letter to the Minister of Indigenous Services Canada, Mandy Galmasti, Ottawa First Nations chiefs say the federal government has caused systemic failures within Indigenous Services Canada, from funding delays, funding denials, and the misinterpretations of eligibility under Jordan's Principle and First Nation representative services. They say up to 38 of their staff are being terminated by the end of March, with further layoffs under consideration, and they predict close to 140 family units will face disruption or complete loss of support also by March. They say many families are already in crisis, including recent suicide attempts. Ottawa says is directly linked to this announcement. Anuguming First Nation in northwestern Ontario says it's prepared to block a highway, take legal action if a number of resource companies and the province move ahead on projects without the First Nations consent. For more on this, we're joined now by Anuguming First Nation Chief Jeffrey Kopanets. Chief Kopanets, great to have you with us. You have recently said that your elders are considering a blockade and are preparing to take legal action if First Mining Gold, New Gold, and the province of Ontario move ahead with resource extraction in your traditional territory without your First Nations consent. Can you tell us how this decision was made?
This decision has been going on, I think, for a couple of years now. There's been a series of correspondence that we've received from First Mining Gold to sit down and to talk about this project. And to date, we just haven't been able to. The reality is that we're in a state of emergency, really since 2014. Since I've been chief the past 4 years, we've lost 52 family members in our community. That's 52 funerals. It's been devastating. We just haven't had the ability to build the capacity or to hire the staff necessary to do this work and to really understand what the project entails. And so we've been asking for time. Mostly we've been asking for support for our crisis and for our state of emergency. And unfortunately, it hasn't gone well. We haven't received much support. We do have calls on a regular basis with Ontario and Canada to deal with our state of emergency, but we're still struggling. We're facing another funeral tomorrow, unfortunately, and I feel like things are getting worse right now.
Chief Kopanets, what's at stake here environmentally for your people?
Environmentally, our community is located between 2 bodies of water, Lake of the Woods and Crow Lake. And on the Crow Lake side is a series of interconnected, spring-fed freshwater bodies of water. It's our drinking water. We derive our drinking water directly from Crow Lake, which is connected to Cameron Lake, where the proposed project is to take place. And we're concerned about the impacts. The reality is that, again, we're going through such a crisis. We haven't had really enough time to sit down and even understand the project. We're just asking for more time. And we did get a signal from the Ontario government this morning. We met with Ontario, and we did get a signal that they're prepared to hold off and continue more discussions with us.
Yeah, I guess finally here, Chief, just wondering what you would like to see from the resource companies involved, the province and the federal government regarding this.
You know, maybe I'll just start by saying that I want to thank Ontario for meeting with us so quickly. We did meet this morning, and we were told that Ontario will not proceed with the permits at this time. We're still waiting to see what that means exactly. I don't know if that means they're rejecting the permits. I don't know if it means that they're just holding off the permits until more discussions are taking place. But currently, again, right now, we see it as a victory that Ontario is informing us that they're going to hold off on the permits. I also wanted to mention that late last night, we got a letter from New Gold, and New Gold stated to Onigamin that they have no interest currently in this project, that they don't have any agreements with this project. And so it seems to me that the province of Ontario is a little bit ahead of itself, even entertaining the idea of these permits without an agreement in place with New Gold, which First Mining Gold, of course, has said is a partner in processing the iron ore that they're looking to transport. So it's a bit confusing right now for us. We're still trying to understand. As for Canada, Ontario, and New Gold, we're just asking them to take a pause, to learn about Onigamin, to sit down with us if we can find the time to sit down. But really what we need is urgent help with our crisis, urgent help with our state of emergency. That means crisis infrastructure. That means a youth center that we're currently working on building. That means a youth crisis center that we currently have an application through the CHRT 41 process with Canada. That also means full-time safety patrol and crisis response services. That's an area that we're lacking. That's an area where Canada has clawed back funds through Jordan's Principle to no longer fund our safety patrol and crisis response teams. And so these are elements that are necessary to lift the state of emergency. I just really want to focus on that. It's almost impossible for us, again, to do day-to-day business given the impacts of all the funerals that we've experienced these past 4 years.
Indeed, Chief, condolences to your nation. We'll have to leave it there, but appreciate you taking some time, and safe travels to Ottawa and back next week.
Thank you very much. Look forward to it. Congrats.
A multinational music competition gets underway in Iqaluit this weekend. Details on that and more after the break. Welcome back. Time now for our photo of the day. Winter is upon us, and Stekjoden Mountain in the Gitxsan Nation is now covered with snow, and We thank regular contributor Clarence Jones for sharing another beautiful photo. If you have a photo to share, send that picture to share@aptn.ca for the chance to be our next photo of the day. Now let's take a look at tomorrow's weather forecast. Starting on the East Coast, 0 for Fredericton, +4 for Halifax, -12 in Kuujjuaq, 0 for Nain and Cartwright, +1 for Montreal, -5 for Val-d'Or and Chibougamau, -2 for Sault Ste. Marie and Ottawa, 3 below for North Bay, -4 for Thunder Bay, 6 below for Sioux Lookout, -14 in Churchill, -12 for God's Lake, -5 in Winnipeg, sunny, and -7 for Dauphin, -9 for Regina, Yorkton, and Saskatoon, -10 for Meadow Lake and La Ronge. In northern Alberta, -14 for High Level and Peace River, -7 in Edmonton, 8 below for Lethbridge, +7 and cloudy for Vancouver and Victoria, -1 with the sun out for Prince George, 9 below for Dease Lake, -17 for Old Crow, 10 below for Whitehorse, -19 for Yellowknife, 20 below for Norman Wells, -23 in Sax Harbor, 20 below for Pawlatuck, -23 for Chesterfield and Cambridge Bay, -23 for Resolute and Joe Haven. Pan-Arctic Vision is ready to go tomorrow in Iqaluit. This is the first time the multinational event will be held in Canada. Like the massively popular European singing competition Eurovision, Pan-Arctic Vision features musical acts from communities surrounding Earth's North Pole. Contestants from places like Alaska, northern Sweden, and Sakha Republic have traveled to Iqaluit to take part. Iqaluit's own Shauna Sitinak is representing Canada's northern communities and is seeing strong support in Nunavut. The event will be streamed live at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. In-person tickets are available in Iqaluit for just under $9, and many communities around the Arctic are hosting streaming parties to show their own local support. Very cool. At 6:30 Eastern tonight, you get your French dose of news with Nouvelle Nationale. Host Kim Sullivan joins us now. Hi, Kim.
Hey, Dennis, we tackle a variety of topics in tonight's show. Quebec's new proposed constitution, still a hot topic here, and we do have a bit about that. We also share about a dropped investigation in Kanesatake, a children's book about the 60s scoop, a new Indigenous exhibition at the Montreal Museum of Fine Arts, and Indigenous pride on the ice with the Professional Women's Hockey League. Join us tonight at 6:30 Eastern.
That is a very busy show. Good stuff. Thanks, Kim. You can catch the show in about 90 seconds from now. We're all out of time for your APTN National News for this Friday. Of course, you can find more over on our website, aptnnews.ca. Dennis Ward, Marcy McGuitch, thanks for being with us. Have a great night.